Hi, I'm Karen Gonzalez from Karen's Happy Place Blog, and today I'm not going to talk about a particular book. I'm going to talk about a subject that I really feel passionate about. That's Joe literature. I love Joe literature, utopian worlds, fantasy books, fiction books, romance books. And especially, I'm going to focus today on retellings. So first of all, what is a retelling? It's of the transformation of a test that we call hypotest to create a new one, the hypertext. A relationship is established between the two that is called intertextuality. It is then about writing a second story of one already written before. The rewrite is to retell a story applying some kind of modification, keeping in mind the original work. It's really important to me to say that a few centuries ago it wasn't so important that deal with new themes, that the author infused those themes with his own perspective. Francisca Tapia says that retellings have gained their space in Joe literature thanks to the remarkable inventiveness of the authors who had made use of this genre. Facing stories installed in popular culture to transferring them to other times, or serving them with the look of inner charities, or simply taking the main elements to create a new story. I'm sure that in some point of your life you had read a book, okay? And maybe you might have liked it, or maybe you might have hated it. It doesn't matter, but because of things that just happened, you had repeated the reading, and you had discovered new things that time that you repeat that reading, and you discover that the story sometimes has completely changed, but the story didn't change, you did. And readers change and rediscover the story, and if you do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, probably you are going to find new things, or you are going to make a new reflection based on what's happening in your life, based in the way your personality changed, or something like this. Well, this type of individual actions have collective results, and then we have a whole audience that has completely changed. A audience of a book, of a story, just another generation is completely different from readers that just happened before us. And there is another context, another culture, another temporary space, and with it a different perception of life, a different perception of what's wrong, what's good, and a different perception of art, of course, and absolutely everything. Think about the book you want. Think about your favorite, and think about all of those what if is. What if? I mean, what if the villain had won? What if the protagonist had stayed with this character and not with this another one? What if this character really didn't die? What if this character didn't die but was murdered by someone? We can make a story about it. And what happened to this character will move up to a distant place and what? So then, in summary, a recognized original story. The author can have some passage or delay some characters, but the main arguments or the main actions that happen, they must be in the book. And the author must include new elements that renew the story, a different setting, and new motivations. Retellings are usually confusing with fanfiction. Fanfictions are also words that are based on other books, and they may work with the same world, with the same characters. They can change a scene, the end of a story. They can answer a question that all the fandom is asking. The most important thing about fanfiction is that they must be non-profit. It will be another way that will be plagiarism. The spin-offs are also confusing with a retelling. But a spin-off is the same author who creates a second story. Normally, The author creates a world and makes different stories. What kind of stories are retold? You can retell fairy tales, the mythology of any culture. I mean, Greek mythology, Asian mythology, Latin mythology, like of the indigenous, and of course, classic books. Let's talk about now about some retellings and how they have manifested this reinterpretation. Marisa Mayer's retelling of Cinderella, retellings of Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, and Snow White, and other princesses. In these books, Marisa Mayer set all those characters in a futuristic world where there are robots. And Cinderella's story in this version is called Cinder, where the famous Cinderella is a cyborg who works as the best mechanic in New Beijing while living under her stepmother's, again the bad stepmother, tutelage. Too much has been writing about Cinderella that is a main character really criticized. From the repetition of the same story in an American class scenario, from a feminist story that tried to say that she doesn't need any man. Cinderella is dead. After reading this retelling, I really want to write a review after too long, and I did it in my personal blog. It's 200 years after Cinderella found her prince, but the fairy tale is over. Teen girls are now required to appear at the annual ball, where the men of the kingdom select wives based on accurate displays of finery. If a suitable match is not found, the girls not chosen are never heard from again. 16-year-old Sophia will much rather marry Erin, her childhood best friend, than parade in front of suitors. At the ball, Sophia makes the desperate decision to flee, and finds herself hiding in Cinderella's mausoleum. There, she meets Constance, the last known descendant of Cinderella and her stepsisters. Together, they vow to bring down the king once and for all. And in the process, they learn that there is more to Cinderella's story than they ever knew. Anyone knew. This fresh taken a classical story will make our readers question the tales they've been told, and root for girls to break down the construction of the worlds around them. A very interesting and powerful retelling that I really need to read, that I think that you really need to read if you know Alice in Wonderland, is Heartless. It's inspired by Alice in Wonderland to propose an original prequel that tells the story of the Queen of Hearts before becoming the characters in Lewis Carroll's story. One of my favorites in life that I already read before and that I really love, and one of my favorite authors. This is Ako Taratagas. Begin with the story of a retelling, named A Retelling of the Beauty and the Beast. Fairy was hunting something for his family. She was given the opportunity to kill a wolf and brought the wolf to home. Later, a fairy that is a male fairy, the Lord of the Spring Court, arrives at the human's house with the intention of killing her because of what she did. And he takes her to his mansion and kidnaps her. And in that process, they fall in love with her. They fall in love with each other, and she breaks the corpse that she had, the the people who live in that court was unprecedented on there, and she carves roses from her. In the process, she has to face different challenges. She has to save entire lives, and that's something that makes her feel really bad because she never killed people before. I mean, they are not literally people; they are fairy, but even like this, a life is a life. In the second book of this saga, we have the retelling of the story of Hades and Persephone. Fairy finds herself wounded by war, and she suffers from many traumas, and being in the eternal garden is really making her feel really sick. And while she takes refuge in art, she passively waits for her wedding day. Then the Lord of the Dark Court kidnaps her from her and takes her into the shadows. Fairy is forced to keep a deal with her due to a common tattoo they share. That is like an example of that food that Persephone ate from the Tartarus, and then she can live from the Hades mansion, Hades house. In the story of Pilar Quintana, a Little Red Riding Hood eats the wolf. We have the story about like 5 pages with erotic content. I met the author in the 2019 or 2018. She told us that it was a story at the request of story reinterpretations for a magazine. Well, that was it. I really hope you like it, and that has not been a tedious subject, and that you like the recommendations. Thank you.